Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. You may kindly take your seat. Mr. Witness, for continuation of your testimony before this Commission of Inquiry into Local Government Councils and related matters, may I remind you that you are still on the oath before I hand you over to Madam Chair for us to proceed.
Confirmed, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I hand over the witness to you for us to proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Senghore.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
I hope you're okay now.
I am, thank you so much.
Thank you. Council, we may proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I want to show you this file. It's a KMT file. It's an exhibit LGC/GC/KMT/000110. It's in relation to the request for an asset finance facility. 16th February 2023.
Thank you.
Yes, that is a letter written to the bank, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Which bank is that?
Zenith Bank.
Now, you were requesting for a facility, correct?
That's correct.
How much?
$50 million.
$50 million.
Yes, please.
And how did you intend to pay for that facility if it was granted, if it were granted?
From the operations of the company.
Can you please explain more what you mean by operations of the company?
The objective would have been once the specific facility request was tied to an order that we had wanted to do with Tata for 16 buses to run a pilot that would do 4 routes, if I remember, 4 or 5 routes. So the idea would have been that the operations of the company would have started then, and then the company would have been earning income and would be in a position to service this facility.
So the monies generated from the operations of those bus would have been used to finance the $50 million.
That's correct.
And the interest would have been how many percent?
The interest that we had proposed, at least in the initial negotiations, was 12% for a 4-year facility. And again, as I outlined earlier, asset financing, so no collateral to be pledged, but to be secured with the buses, yes.
Correct. And there's also another means of paying out the $50 million in that document that you have communicated to the bank.
Sorry, how do you mean?
I said there's also another means of paying, aside from the monies or the profit generated from the operations cost. You also intend to pay to the bank monies that you will receive from KMC, is that correct?
No, so the letter, and I think this speaks to the point I had raised earlier.
Yeah.
So the letter was effectively indicating to the bank that KMC was taking a commitment to meet its obligations that it had set to capitalize the company.
Right.
So effectively what KMC was doing in this letter was that there was going to be a council resolution to just reaffirm to the bank the commitment that the council already took to capitalize KMC.
Yes.
So again, this again speaks to the point I had mentioned earlier. It is these commitments from KMC which made the directors continue to believe that KMC continue to remain committed to raising the financing that was required. So
yes. So my point was, and you're correct, but my point was in relation to the fact that the intention to, or the means of paying back the monies plus the interest from the bank, if loan was granted, would have been from monies that would be generated from the operations of the buses and also the commitment of KMC.
No, not the commitment of KMC was just a comfort to the bank, and those monies would have been capital contributions, would have been capitalized. Okay. So obviously in paying loans, you would ideally the first point of call is to use your operating cash flows to pay. So obviously you wouldn't want to use your capital. You would want to use your capital for the planned investments. However, in the course of operations, if we had taken the facility, we didn't have enough liquidity to pay from operating, then the recourse would have been to any liquidity, so including potentially the capital to cover it, yes.
Right. So was that convincing to the bank? No?
In the end,
Offer?
in the end, we couldn't secure any facility with the bank. So I think that in itself is confirmation that the bank didn't give us any facility based on what was proposed.
In your experience, do you think genuinely the bank may have been in the position to commit $50 million for returns from the possible investment?
I would say yes, in the sense that, because you see, all of these engagements that we've had with the bank, we didn't just go there and look to open accounts. We had preliminary conversations because the specific facility being requested, some banks don't offer this. Some banks underwriting standards don't allow for these types of facilities. So it didn't make sense to engage. So we'd first engage and we would have received assurances that they are ready to consider the proposal based on its merits.
Yes.
So really, we submitted it in good faith.
Yes.
With the assumption that they will review it based on its merits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think from our vantage point, and that is the directors, we submitted based on a proposal. So if, for example, we didn't meet our end of the bargain, capital, you really didn't have much agency to be going to the bank and say, why not? Because what we have committed to, we were yet to fulfill that condition precedent effectively.
Yes, because I'm thinking that the risk is too high for the bank to part with $50 million is when they don't have a very concrete grounds to issue out those monies in relation to the fact that they can be recouped at the end of the day or at a given period.
Well, I mean, again, I cannot speak for the bank, but the only thing I could look at is the merits of the proposal that's been tabled, and what we committed to in the proposal to the bank was that the shareholder would meet its part of the capital contribution. So really, even looking at it from the vantage point of the bank, if that is not done, then really you haven't fulfilled the conditions you yourself have given to the bank. So you wouldn't expect the bank to be able to. So what does that mean? That if, for example, that company was capitalized, could we have secured financing? Maybe, maybe not.
Yes.
Yes, I do not know. I cannot speak to, only the bank can speak to it.
Yes.
But at least from my professional experience, what I can say is that these were legitimate opportunities that were worth exploring, and it's common. You can be.
But you would have been in a better position to negotiate when you have the capital.
Definitely.
Yes. Without the capital, it's probably
difficult.
less of a chance to succeed.
Undoubtedly, yes.
And so, how many banks
we engaged? From my recollection, at least when I was still involved with the company, it was the 3 banks I have mentioned. So we initially had Ajib Bank, which was the initial company. So Ajib too was also engaged from the beginning. You know, then it was Access, Zenith, and Reliance. So those were the 4 that I recollect from my engagements with the company. Yes.
Correct. So please read that letter just for the first 2 paragraphs, possibly.
Okay. So this is a letter addressed to the managing director of Zenith Bank, dated 16 February 2023, signed by myself, Alieu Badara Senghore, as the board chair. So the letter requests for an asset finance facility as you outline. So the letter reads, dear sir, the letter is an amendment to our previous letter dated 17th October 2022 with regard to our request for an asset financing facility from your bank for the procurement of 16 buses for a proposed urban transportation service. Outlined below is our proposition for the requested facility. A facility of $50 million for a period of 4 years to be secured by the 16 buses to be purchased, an interest rate of 12% per annum, a moratorium period of 3 months from the date of disbursement of the facility amount, and to allow for the order period of the buses so that operations can start. So the other paragraph, next paragraph is KMT is a limited liability company established to provide urban public transport services within the greater Banjul area of the Gambia in response to increased difficulty in the mobility due to very limited access to public transportation services in the GBA. Should I continue?
That's fine, that's all right.
Thank you.
May I please have that file? You've had some sort of an agreement with Tata International, correct? Unitech Senegal.
We had a proposed agreement,
Right.
which we never executed on.
So how would you differentiate an agreement with a proposed agreement?
Because, you know, there was a proposed contract on the
Right.
table
Right.
from Tata, which was negotiated. So Tata was, you know, we had done a request for proposals, and Tata was the preferred bidder that was identified by the board subcommittee that was hired to review the proposals.
Yes.
There were a number of proposals. So the team even went on a visit the facilities. I wasn't part of that visit, but it was led by one of our directors and our transport expert, Mr. Ba. So from that visit, really, terms were reviewed, negotiated. Tata gave us an offer, which they outlined in a contract, and they wanted us to sign. But as the board, as I said, we didn't sign anything until we were sure we secured financing, because if we did, we would have committed KMT without having the financing to pay for it.
Right.
So we never signed off. There was a proposal in place which we never signed off on because we couldn't secure the financing before doing that.
Correct. And based on that proposal, you had approached Access Bank to have a bank comfort letter. You recall this?
That's right. That's correct.
And what was the purpose of the bank comfort letter?
So the bank comfort letter was effectively a letter that Access Bank would have shared to Tata,
Yes.
to indicate that they will be coming on board as the financiers of the project.
Right.
But for that to have happened, the bank should have first issued a facilities letter that we would have signed off on.
Yes.
So we never really got to that point.
Right. Let me give you this letter from Access Bank to the Managing Director, Tata International
Okay.
Unitech Senegal. Is that the document you're referring to?
Yes, so this is the comfort letter.
Right.
Yes.
It's already in evidence, so you can please read the document.
Yes. So Cardiff Municipal Transport Limited has notified Access Bank that it has entered into a contract with Tata International Unitech for the purchase and delivery of 16 buses from Tata Senegal. To consummate the transaction, Cardiff Municipal Transport Limited has to make a deposit of 10% of the total facility amount, equivalent to 57,800 euros for the start of production of the buses. Please be informed that Access Bank is processing approval for a facility request by Cardiff Municipal Transport and will remit the initial 10% to Tata International Unitech Senegal SA as soon as full approval is attained. The bank is committed to offer the facility once all required conditions are met by KMT. Please note that the letter of comfort is not a bank guarantee and should not be construed as such. The letter of comfort does not create any obligation on the part of the bank or any of its officers to pay you any sum of money in relation to the transaction between the customer and your good selves.
Thank you. So the bank understood, as far as they are concerned, that there is a contract between Tata and KMT.
So I think this is a letter that requires context, and I will provide that context if that's okay with you, sir. So as I've outlined, if you look at the contract itself, Tata gave us a condition that we had to pay a 10% deposit.
Yes.
So at the time, there was a deadline that was attached to this. So one of the things that they had mentioned that would help to give them comfort was to get a comfort letter from the bank. Because ideally, you would have, as you can even see from the letter, we had not secured financing, and even the bank made it clear that we had not secured financing yet.
Correct.
So this is a comfort letter that actually I do not have the recollection of, but you have, by providing, I've seen it, I have memory of it now. So that was provided to Tata as a means of comfort,
right,
to prove to them that we are in advanced conversations with the bank,
right,
so that they could kind of give us a little bit of leeway. In the end, we couldn't close it out. So,
yes,
so we had to go back to Tata and let them know that we couldn't, and in the end, at least as the time I was there, we never ever placed an order. Because we never signed any contract with Tata in the end. Yes.
So the part that the bank clearly outlined, that it is committed to offer the facility once all required conditions are met by KMT.
Yes.
What is requirements? Do you recall?
I do not recall, but I think generally, as I've mentioned earlier, a lot of the requirements were for the banks. The comfort that all the banks were looking for was KMC's commitment in terms of the capital,
Yes.
initial capitalization. Because the conversations that we had with the bank was that that extra 10 million that they were supposed to put, and the 10 million was actually supposed to cover their commitment that they had not done because every year, because they had missed 2 years of commitments. So
Right.
that's what that 10 million is for reference.
Correct.
That they will actually deposit it into the bank that is going to give us the facility.
Correct.
So that was what all the banks were looking out for. So as long as that was not done, we as the board couldn't really, we were limited in our ability to follow up further. Because what we were committing to, as you've seen in the letter, we had not yet fulfilled all of those conditions. Yes, so I think, as outlined, really, I think the biggest challenge was getting the capital required that KMC had committed to.
So it primarily failed because KMC didn't meet up with their obligations.
Well, they haven't fully capitalized the company.
That is why it failed. Is it a yes?
That is why what failed? What in particular failed? The fundraising.
Yes.
Well, I think one can say that that was a significant constraining factor to that, but why it failed, that's a question that only the banks themselves can speak to.
You've already explained the commitment. Had you had the commitment from the primary shareholder, KMC, you would have had, or to a great extent, you've met the requirements from the bank as you have outlined, then they would have been in a position to strongly consider your.
Well, we could have met the requirements and they could have still decided not to give us the facility.
But at least you have met the requirements.
At least would have met the requirement, that's
Yes.
true. But at least in my experience as well, you bankers are always very keen for you to sign on an account.
Yes.
And if I'm being honest, that was our experience during it, where sometimes we were made to be very hopeful.
Right.
But in the end of the day, banks have very rigorous lending and underwriting standards that they will never compromise. So as long as you don't meet them.
So we have shareholders. We have Nofly and we have KMC. The share capital would have been 77 million or thereabout, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And at face value, you would expect both shareholders would have had the financial
Capacity.
standing to have the company up and running.
Yes.
But that does not seem to be the case. You were appointed as a board,
Yes.
you came on board, and you would have realized at some point that both Nofly and KMC were committed to their shares. That is a fact. Would you agree with me?
That I should have, what is the fact?
Both the shareholders were not really meeting up their obligations as per their shares.
Yes, they hadn't fully committed to the obligations, yes.
And
That's
so,
factual.
in that regard,
Yes.
would it not be practically impossible or extremely difficult to have the company up and running, considering the fact that the shareholders have not met up with their obligations?
Yes, so as long as the company was not adequately capitalized
Right.
as provisioned,
Right.
it will be in a difficult position to meet its obligations. However, what I cannot speak to is that the commitment of the shareholder, because I do not know KMC's financial position, its financial health, its decision. So only thing I can go on, as I've outlined, is if you have taken a firm commitment that you want to do this, and whenever we, as I said, and I think the board minutes can speak to that, whenever this matter is a matter that was continually raised at the level of the board, that this is something we need to, and there are always reassurances which are outlined in that. So those reassurances, what I can say is, had always been enough for the board directors to keep on plugging away and doing, hoping that the circumstances would allow for KMC to be able to meet its commitment.
And
Yes.
until 2023, then you realize that, well,
No, I wouldn't
probably.
say, sorry, sir, please
No,
go
I'm
ahead.
just saying until all the way to 2023, then probably you realize that we do not have it. We could not have the shareholders to really financially commit and pay up their shares, and so it will be difficult to have the company up and running.
Well, up till as I left,
Yes,
it was not done.
Yes.
But that is not the reason why I left.
No, I'm not saying that's why you left.
Yeah.
We will get to that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's been since 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, with all the efforts that the board were doing in relation to making sure that the obligations of the parties, the core parties, the two individuals were met. That was not the case as at the time you left.
As at the time I had left, the capitalization commitments, shareholders was not yet in place,
Right.
yes.
And this is also evidence in letters written to KMC, probably several letters, but I have one I want to show you.
Okay.
Again, all these are admitted. It is contained in the file marked Carnival Municipal Transport, KMT, 2022 file. It is a letter addressed or signed by Badara Senghore, the General Manager of KMT, addressed to Kajala Jane, Deputy Chief Executive Officer. Date is 5th of September 2022. Are you familiar with that letter?
Yes, so this was a letter that was written by the general manager at the time, and as a board chair, I was also CC'd in this letter. Yes, so I am familiar with this letter, sir.
Can you please kindly read the letter?
Okay, so letter dated 5th September 2022, addressed to Mr. Kajali Jana, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, KMC. Letter signed by Mr. Bakari Singate, General Manager, KMT. Dear Mr. Jane, request for outstanding 5 million commitment to KMT. Following on from the last board meeting of Kanifing Municipal Transport, which was held on 16th August 2022, the board agreed to officially request the payment of 5 million by KMC towards its equity contributions to KMT. As you are aware, the ability to raise adequate funding is one of the most important challenges facing KMT. I am therefore requesting urgent settlement of your commitment because of a low level of financial resources currently available to KMT, which are inadequate to meet KMT's equity contribution to the fleet sourcing and other planned capital expenditures for the pilot. The fleet order placed with Tata requires 10% down payment with the order, amount that KMC is expected to contribute 20% of the required payment envelope. KMT has applied for a loan facility with a local bank, Access Bank, to fund 16 Tata LP 913 vehicles overdue. I therefore take this opportunity to kindly request your immediate payment of the 5 million to allow KMT to meet its financial obligations while working with the bank to complete the loan application process for full implementation of the project in line with our work plan. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. Yours sincerely, Bakari Singate.
Thank you. You have seen this letter before?
Yes, so I was CC'd in this letter, yes.
The letter appears that it is stating that you have secured a facility from Access Bank.
No, I think the letter I don't have here, but I just read it now. But what I read was we are looking to secure a facility with Access Bank, so we have an offer.
Yes.
Like a provisional, what we have, because what those things that you see were provisional term sheet.
Yes.
That was given to us by Access.
Correct.
That we can meet. So that is what, as I just outlined earlier in my testimony,
correct.
This is an issue that came up repeatedly at the board level,
yes.
and at times KMC was officially engaged, and I think this letter testifies to that fact.
Yes, and in all these letters and communications to KMC, they still did not meet up with the obligations as expected.
No, I mean that, as I said, aside from the inception 5 million, no other funds have subsequently been provided to KMT.
Did you write for call-up shares to the shareholders for them to pay or meet up with their shares?
Yes, we did.
To both KMC and
yes,
and No-Fly?
Yes, we did.
Well, I haven't seen a call-up share to KMC, but I've seen one written to No-Fly. Would you be able to assist us in relation to letters written to KMC?
I'm sorry, I believe that the company secretary Leary would be the best person to be able to do that.
But you can confirm
yes,
that
because
the letters were written to KMC
yes,
for call-up shares?
Yes, because part of the forfeiture process
yes.
would not have been kicked off without a formal call being issued. So that was done.
That was done in relation to No-Fly?
That was done, yes. So it was done in relation to all of the shareholders, so both KMC and to No-Fly.
Right.
So as you recall, KMC, as at that time, had given 5
yes.
and had launched the process for the other elements. So as I said, we understood at the board level that, for example, the other big piece at the time was the Central Exchange in Westfield.
Right.
So the process was launched. So we took comfort in that this is a process in action, will take time to close out. So as in that sense, theoretically, KMC was how can I put it, in line with the call. It was not, it didn't fall foul of the call that was done. So I think it's the subsequent years that technically, in that sense, you know, the call and the commitment was not met in that sense, yeah. But when that call was done with Nofly, it was to do it because to remember that Nofly, why it was in default was because it was supposed to pay 3.5 on signing, KMC 5 on signing. KMC did the 5, Nofly didn't do the 3.5. We gave them about 6 months, even before we did the official call, because the official call, once you launch it, there's a stipulated period in the Companies Act. I can't remember, it's 4 weeks, 6, I don't want to say, but then that process runs its course.
Probably that was why there was a need to do due diligence on the part of Nofly or for any shareholder that they may want to invite.
But possibly, I think, but that's the role that, as I said, pre-formation.
Yes.
I think there was an entire process.
You already said you didn't take part in the
No, I
pre-formation
didn't. So
contract.
that, yeah, so
I'm just saying,
yes.
you agree with me that would have been the proper thing to do, to conduct due diligence in relation to any supply and any shareholder that you want to
no,
invite.
but I would beg to have a different view, because as I said, even from my experience as someone who's been involved in professional investment for a long time, until a deal is consummated, it's not. So at any particular
Until a
term,
deal is consummated,
it's until you make a commitment,
yes,
right? Until you sign,
right.
funds are exchanged, they, at any particular point in time, they may choose to run. So for all intents and purposes, Nofly could have passed due diligence, right? So I don't speak to that, but even as an investor, you could have passed due diligence, yet we will not be able to fulfill your commitment.
No, you will have something to fall back on. If
Yeah,
if you've ascertained that they have the financial muscle,
yes,
they have shown proof of financial muscle,
yes,
to relation to the shares that they have, then you have something to fall back on. You have something to fall back on. Well, then without having evidence of financial muscle, then you have nothing to fall back on. That's the part I'm talking about in relation to due diligence.
Well,
it's a requirement.
But I think, as I said, I cannot really speak to that. Because,
exactly.
Because
that would be fair.
Yes.
Yes, that would be fair. But you see the logic I'm driving towards. You would have advised anyone that kind of due diligence must or should, or is important that it be followed, correct?
Sorry?
I said, I understand that you didn't take part in the pre-formation of the company.
Yes.
But you would understand that it's a necessity to know who you're dealing with.
Well, I believe that.
Regard.
Yeah, no, I agree that these are standard processes,
yes,
for any partnerships,
yes,
that happen.
Absolutely.
And I cannot speak to as to whether that was done.
Yes.
And the rigor of that, I cannot speak to that. I wasn't
Yes.
involved in that process.
All right.
Yes.
The last issue is in relation to you being the chairman of the board at some point between 2020 to 2023, correct?
Yes.
And the secretary is also Yasin Senghore. Is there any relationship that you have with the secretary?
Yes, Yasin Senghore is my older sister.
Your older sister, you mean biological sister?
Yes, we are siblings, yes.
Is there another conflict between the chairman and the secretary in relation to serving in the same board?
Maybe you can help me by defining conflict, because I think, conflict is a legal term. So definitely there wasn't any conflict, and at least my understanding of conflict.
Now, go ahead, please proceed.
No, I think that's it, yeah. So from my understanding of what constitutes a conflict, maybe you can help me provide a definition, and then I can see where that lies, how it meshes with your definition. But no, I mean, in Gambia is a small society. I cannot list the amount of institutes where you have close family members who are there. So it's just the nature of our society. So, and that in itself is not a presence of a conflict. I think, as I said, conflict is a clear legal definition for conflict. If you define, you let me know, then I can tell you how my understanding washes with that definition.
So again, to start with, the idea that it has been done over and over and over again, I always say that probably it's not an excuse. The idea that it has been done by many, it may not be something that you understand, like you said, it may not be something that you appreciate at the time, but the fact that it has been done, which is true in the context we live in, the society we live in, but that is not, that doesn't ratify it. The other issue is that you as the chairman, you have certain powers, correct? The board chair.
Yes.
You can tie the company in relation to certain obligations.
No, I don't. I mean, please, how do you mean? Please,
No,
please
your
clarify.
role as a
Yes.
board chair is clearly spelled out in your memorandum.
Yes.
An
So,
article
so,
of
so, so,
association.
so you said I can
It
tie.
says, let me just read to you. It says, the board shall be constituted by 5 directors, subject to Regulation 68, and unless otherwise determined by a general meeting, the number of directors shall be 5. The chairman of the board shall be nominated by the Cardiff Municipal Council. The remuneration of the directors shall from time to time be determined by the company in general meeting. The directors may also be repaid all traveling, hotel, and so on and so forth. Any director who, being so requested by the directors, performs special or extraordinary services on behalf of the company, or whose travel or resides outside the Gambia, or travels to or resides in any place or other than where the usually resides for the purpose of discharging his duties, may be paid extra remuneration. A director of the company may be or become a director, and the list goes on. The business of the company, 73, shall be managed by the directors, who may pay all expenses incurred in forming and registering the company, and may exercise all such powers of the company as are not by the Companies Act 2013. So that's the power of a director. It goes on.
Yes.
That 75, the directors may entrust to and confer upon a managing director any of the powers exercisable by them upon such time. So you control the affairs of the company as a director.
No, I think.
Go ahead.
No, I think that's as you said, the role, because a company director is provided for by law. The rules, it is very clear. It's in black and white.
Yes.
You've read some of it. That comes into the articles and mems. So, in terms of control the company, no. So, directors oversee a company. Directors have a fiduciary right, to ensure that the interest of shareholders are, sought out for. So within that, there are powers and roles that directors have, but there are also powers that are given to management, and there are also powers that are given to shareholders. So if you look at, for example, let me use the example you pointed out about Ms. Senghore, company secretary.
Right.
Ms. Senghore, and I didn't appoint Ms. Senghore. Ms. Senghore didn't appoint me.
I know.
Those decisions are made by shareholders.
Absolutely.
Shareholders appoint company secretary, they appoint directors. So Ms. Senghore and I can only assume we've managed to find ourselves in that position by dint of our professional expertise.
Right.
Yeah. So really, in that sense, I do not see a conflict, and how. Maybe you can define.
You wrote to the banks. You signed the letter I gave you to read.
Yes.
To Zenith Bank. You signed it.
Yes.
Seeking for financial commitment.
Yes.
From the bank.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote that in your capacity as
board chairman.
Board chairman.
Yes.
So that's why I said you've had certain very important powers that you can commit the company to very sensitive issues.
No, I would disagree. Okay, I would respectfully have a different view.
Right.
Because really, decisions that are made at the board level are done by board resolutions.
Right. True.
So yes, as a chairman, I have a role to play.
Yes.
And the roles of chairs too are clearly spelled out in the law.
Right.
Right. So convening the meetings, ensuring that agendas are sent out before chairing, but any decision making is a collective responsibility of the we vote. So and again, we can only make decisions on matters where the law has prescribed for us to make decisions. Yes. So
which you are part of and which you chair.
Yes.
And which you sign minutes. In fact, you have the power to even authorize payments. Sign. And give your authority on payment. We have seen evidence of that in the...
Because I was a signatory to the accounts.
Exactly.
So I had I could sign off on payments in line with the financial policies of the thing. So I was just a signatory.
No.
Yes.
That's why I said...
Yes.
That's why I said you have very, very important powers as a board chair.
Yes.
Correct? You're
Correct.
not only an ordinary board member, but a board chair. And so do the secretary. If you understand company law, the secretary is also equally very powerful.
Yes.
Can bind the company as well.
Can
bind the company into very, very sensitive issues. The company secretary has very important powers, very sensitive powers. You understand that? So you may not understand.
No, but actually, I would respectively have a different view.
It's okay.
Because the company secretary, I wouldn't say the secretary has power, because the secretary doesn't have any decision-making authority.
Okay, so let me say this. Let me say this. I wouldn't want to have that probably legal argument. Maybe Yasin would be in a better position to know what I am saying. You understand that her powers are so important that she can bind the company into any engagement. It has already been decided. There's already case law to it, that the importance and the powers of the company secretary, such that if the board chair, which we've agreed, has a similar powers and the secretary can exercise those powers, then do you not think that would be dangerous for any company?
But I respectfully have a different view, if it's okay, Honorable Lead Counsel. Again, I am not a lawyer, but again, as I said, I have well over 15 years as an investment professional.
Right.
And I'm very au fait with the Companies Act.
Yes.
So I am very au fait with it. As I've outlined, a secretary is responsible for implementing the instructions that are given by the bank.
No, my friend.
So filing the requisite resolutions.
Yes.
Right? But the secretary doesn't vote in those resolutions. The directors do. The secretary's responsibility is as effectively handling the secretariat of the board. So in that sense, yes, the secretary is a very important position in a company, but it is a company it's a position that doesn't have gray area. Okay. Because just like the role of a director, just like the role of a secretary is clearly defined, and if the secretary, just like a director, steps out of line, it is very easy to see where they've stepped out of line and for them to be held accountable.
So let's put it in this way.
Yes.
You don't agree that the secretary can bind the company into any commitment?
Not per my understanding. The secretary on their own will be very difficult for the secretary to do that.
Yes. So if you understand the contrary, that the secretary indeed can bind the company and put the company into some financial obligations or thereabout, would you now change your position that may amount to a conflict, considering you have the same powers?
Well, you can, this is not my understanding. So that is why that view, again, as I said respectfully, this is not my understanding, my knowledge, and my lived experience.
Yes.
The secretary cannot sign off on any loan agreement.
Yes.
The secretary, even in our situation, was not a signatory.
That is why I said
to the account.
To what a secretary is probably limited based on your legal, your lack of legal understanding in relation to this. So now, that's why I said we may not prolong that discussion.
Yes.
We have confirmed your role. I am now telling you, such roles that you have as a board chairman, in fact, the secretary as well has very powerful role as a secretary of a company, and so can bind the company into certain obligations, which makes it dangerous. Which makes it dangerous if that is the case, to have both the chairman and the legal secretary to have such a relationship. You may not be in the position to have known that at the time.
No.
But that is the issue.
No, but again, here, because when you say that, that means that I doubt my professional competence and my ability to effectively play the role.
No, Mr. Senghore, I do not doubt your competence.
So,
in fact, I think, just hear me out, I think that's not in question. The fact that someone is probably ignorant of a fact does not in any way have to do with their professional competence. You're not a lawyer, you may not be in the position to know. And then in that regard, that's why I told you in no uncertain terms that on the rights of the secretary and the powers of the secretary, I may not prolong the discussion, but I'm telling you that since we've established your powers as chairman, I'm now telling you that there's more reason why it would not be advisable to have your biological sibling or your sister or your brother to be in the same board because of the sensitivity of the role.
Okay, I mean, if it's, I would respectfully have a different view.
Okay.
And I think maybe given, I think it would require two lawyers who can code law and then maybe do a deep dive on it. But really, based on my experience, my knowledge, the secretary would be not in a position to do that, just like the board chair. The board chair, there's always accountability mechanisms that will make it very difficult for the secretary, especially a secretary who doesn't have any decision-making authority. I mean, as I said, directors have decision-making that is assigned to them. But the secretary doesn't. The secretary fulfills a statutory role set by law. Again,
in your understanding.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, in my versed understanding.
In your understanding.
Yes, thank you.
That's all right. Are there questions for this witness?
Mr. Senghore, I wanted you to highlight for me the issue of risk in getting the banks to finance the project. From your understanding, what is the risk element in using the revenue generated from the buses, and in addition, using the buses as collateral?
Okay, thank you. So really, any lending relationship, any business enterprise is fraught with risk. Is fraught with risk. Any business, especially one that is a startup, which this was a startup, a greenfield venture start.
We understand that.
Yes. So now, looking at the balance of views, what the directors at the time, at least the advice that was given to shareholders, was that firstly, because KMC has limited funding and it's public funds, so we really wanted at all times to ensure that we protect the public funds. So that's why even the asset financing structure we felt was the best given the balance of reward and risk. So just to explain what the risk to KMT and KMC would have been with that structure, any losses would have been left at the buses. So that means that with the structure that we chose, if KMT was not able to fulfill its obligation, the bank couldn't go for nothing more than the buses, which we felt was fair because this is what is their financing. So
yes,
that means.
But Mr. Senghore,
yes,
having listened to you give evidence,
yes,
I take you from the way you have answered the questions,
yes,
and I know from listening to you from morning that you have a deep understanding of your field. But my specific question here is, assuming you are to lend KMT, how would you rate the risk level by percentage point?
No,
the revenue you earn and using the buses as collateral. That is what I want to be clear about.
Okay, so really based on my expertise,
yes,
this was the best structure,
yes,
from a risk-reward perspective,
yes,
that KMT could have hoped for. Okay. And it was not an easy one because I am not even aware of any asset finance.
Did you say it was not going to be an easy one?
I said that this, if we could have secured this facility,
yes,
it represented the best possible approach for KMT, given the thing. One, because KMT didn't have the financing to be able to outright purchase.
So now give me the percentage, now looking at it objectively,
yes,
not being biased,
yes,
to the interest of KMT.
Yes.
What percentage of risk are we looking at?
You know, I'm not a professional in that sense where I can give you a specific number and say.
I'm talking about estimation.
No, but
because
even then.
Even though I'm not an accountant or
yes,
a professional in that aspect.
Yes.
You understand? Generally, looking at it in general terms.
Yes.
Not being biased, because you had looked at the best interest of KMT.
Yes.
And my interjection here, and what I want to know,
yes,
is why the project stalled.
Yes.
So that is why I'm asking this question, because looking at your perspective,
yes,
I can understand, I can choose from your evidence that you've been able to put on the table the best possible option that you want that will be beneficial to KMT.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If the bank was able to buy your idea. Is that not correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, but now looking at it realistically,
yes,
and making analysis and having the background you have,
yes,
do you think that was a workable plan?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just run through the highlights of the offer letter. So if you look at it, assuming that a bank took that offer, It would have meant we would have been able to secure financing at 12%, which was, if you look at borrowing rates here, especially for startup companies, you are talking about in excess of 20%. We would have gotten a 4-year facility, which would be a long-term facility. Term lending is very few and far between here. Most banks offer not more than 3 years, if you're lucky, mostly short-term. And then it would have been the only collateral would have been the buses. So that means if the facility went belly up, no bank would be trying to foreclose on the Westfield Monument. So the only thing is they would have been able to sell the buses and recoup their losses from there. That's it. So that, on the balance, would have been a great deal for KMT based on my experience. So really, we tried to negotiate that. In the end, it proved difficult to do because some of the convening factors I mentioned, especially around the capitalization, proved not to be forthcoming. Yeah. So I think, and what does that mean also in terms of risk is that, for example, to go to the question, if I can just land, if I respectfully, was that if, as the board, we wanted to push ahead with Tata, we could have made the commitment. We didn't. Because
yes,
if
I do understand.
Yes.
You know, my take is that funds were being committed to set up this institution. And for a long period of time, you wouldn't, the company was not able to get the equity contributions that could enable it take off.
yes.
So my reason for asking the percentage of risk is because the bank would not lend you the money because it is highly risky for them to lend you on the terms that you have put across to them. And I believe that if you have modified, you understand, that aspect of committing perhaps some of the assets, you could have had lending from the banks because the bank naturally would not lend you on a very, very, very high risk, you understand, collateral that you have put on the table, that is the income that is being generated and the buses, considering, you understand, all the factors they would look into. And I believe you know, these are machines that can break at any moment.
Undoubtedly.
Because and it can also show that there was no proper feasibility studies. Because if there was a feasibility studies, you could know how much is generatable when these 6 buses start flying and how much revenue you anticipate to have. So that when you write to the banks, you have in advance knowledge of what you think is probable and which they can subject to assessment.
May I answer?
Yes.
So all you are saying was done. So all these records you can find available. The banks' submissions that were made to the banks were based...
Assessments were made?
Business plans, financial forecast, investment evaluation. So the whole 9 yards, everything was submitted. Now, I think I had answered the question on the collateral. Okay. We didn't have collateral to pledge because we didn't secure the transfer of title. So that wasn't even an option for us. But even then, we would have been, as a board, very reticent. Why? Because we understand that this is a startup. So whether a bank would have gone for it, I do not know in the end. But if a bank had gone for that, it would have allowed the company to secure financing without having to risk any physical assets, which is what would have been our preferred option. Maybe it would have been too good to be true, but in the end, maybe if he had secured the title...
Exactly, that is what I'm
yeah, so
at.
in the end, if he had secured the title, maybe part of the options we would have eventually considered was pledging it for collateral. It would have been, but I know that for a fact that the board was not too keen on that, right? We wanted to explore an asset financing structure to launch a pilot. We did a lot of good, and the reason we got even provisional offers was because of the quality of the submissions. But again, I think, as I've outlined earlier, that structure, the biggest stumbling block was the terms that we ourselves proposed. We never met them, particularly the issue of the capital contribution from the shareholder. So from my vantage point, I feel that that was one of the stumbling blocks, potentially once amongst many or others. But I know really from the engagements and the feedback, some of it anecdotal, that I received, that was a big stumbling block. But really from my professional experience, what is a difficult project, because any greenfield project is a difficult project to fundraise for. If we had managed to use an asset financing facility, it would have been great for KMT. in terms of the balance of risks. But it would have been difficult to secure such a structure as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, you may proceed.
Yes, I think we're done with the witness. Mr. Senghore, if we need him, we will call him back.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let me just ask this for the question. The responses, you said the company had varying periods, held bank accounts in Access Bank, Ajib, Zenith Bank, and Reliance Financial Services.
That's correct.
Yes, so were you able to write to all of these banks that you have held accounts in?
Yes, so all the banks that we held accounts in, we effectively submitted formal things. Reliance at the time, it was indirect, because Reliance, that time, one of the potential suppliers, we had looked at an option that was being explored with Reliance was for the supplier to raise financing directly themselves and then give us the buses. But then Reliance paid the, so that I know with Reliance, if I recall, that was the structure that was being pursued with Reliance. But I think in terms of concerted effort, I feel that the most ones that we were prioritizing was Access Bank, Zenith Bank in particular. We really did a big push to try and see if we could secure the funding, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Senghore, thank you so much for coming. And if we need to consult you on anything further
Yes.
on these issues, we
Yes.
may call you.
Well noted, Ma.
Once again, thank you.
You're most welcome, Ma. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much as well. Thank you.
We have asked you you noted something that you need to bring for us. So
Yeah.
please.
Yes, he mentioned that lead counsel that he wanted to see KMT emails.
Yes, yes.
On
so
the
please provide those. You can just copy them and give us hard copies.
This is well noted.
Or in the alternative, you can forward them to the registrar's email for
Okay.
the commission.
Okay, so I think, yes, so just for clarification, it's the KMT emails with regard
Yes,
to
pertaining to
the private equity.
transactions and all.
Yes, the private equity engagements, yes. Okay, well noted, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You are this side.
Good afternoon, Madam Witness. You may kindly take your seat. Madam Witness, for continuation of your testimony for this Commission of Inquiry into Local Government Councils and related matters, may I remind you once again that you are still under oath before I hand you over to Madam Chair for us to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I hand over the witness to you for us to proceed.
Understand?
Good afternoon, Madam Senghore.
Good afternoon, Madam
You're
Counsel.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. You were asked to bring some documents. Do you have them?
Which documents?
You were asked to bring your personal bank accounts, all of them.
No, I did not bring my personal bank account because the last time I was here, you said you had asked for it previously, and I went over and replayed the tape, and there was nowhere you asked for my personal bank account. And I don't personally see the relevance of my personal bank account to this.
I didn't hear your last statement.
Sorry?
We didn't get your last statement.
I said, when I came the second time, you said, you asked me for my bank statements. I gave you what I had. And then you said, your personal bank account. I said to you, you never asked for that. You insisted that you had asked for it. I went back and replayed my testimony and the questions you had asked, and what was asked for was the company's accounts, not my bank account.
Okay, so you do not know that I had asked for your personal bank accounts.
Well, you can check the transcript.
Madam Chairperson, we would not mind to apply again formally for the witness to produce her personal bank accounts. And if she fails to do that the second time, we will make an application for the witness to be arrested and prosecuted accordingly. And in that regard, we are applying that the witness produce her personal bank accounts, all her personal bank accounts, in the earliest sitting, in the date prescribed or given to the witness by the chairperson. Thank you.
Upon application by counsel, the witness, Madam Senghore, is herewith ordered to produce her bank statements to the Commission on or before the 21st of January 2025. I make no further orders.
As the commission places. Now, the order will be typed and given to you. We will make the application that, that the order be availed to the witness.
The application is granted.
Thank
The
you.
order can be picked up tomorrow.
Thank you. Now, you were also asked to produce all the tender documents for the contracts that were awarded to you by KMC.
Which tender documents?
You were asked to produce all tender documents that you've taken part in an award of contracts to you by Carnegie Municipal Council.
Which tender documents?
How many contracts were awarded to you from 2018 to date, to 2023?
I gave you what I had the last time I came. I gave you the documents. I submitted documents.
What documents did you submit?
Well,
The fencing of the backward dump site. The library?
I gave you the tender documents for the library.
Madam Chairperson, we will apply for the case to be adjourned till Monday. The witness will appear. We will cross-check with the registrar the documents if they are submitted. What we have is the award of contract for the fencing of the backward dump site. So we apply that the witness will come back on Monday.
I already submitted.
Let me just find out.
Go back to the
Yes,
records.
Yes, let us. What is given to me, Madam Senghore, is the award of contract, which is dated the 27th of March, 2020, and it has the attached to it is the construction of backwater dump site boundary fence payments, receipts, and statement for the project of Bakote. Did you submit the tender documents for this contract?
Can I repeat what I submitted?
Yes.
I submitted the award letter for
Madam
Bakote
Chairperson, may we have the witness to use the microphone that is given to her by the technician for the purpose of the record.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I gave you the award letter
Yes. The award of contract, yes.
for Bakote Dump site. I gave you the tender documents for Carifing Municipal Library. I gave you photocopies all the checks we were paid for Bakote Dump site, as well as the bank statement for the period from Ajib Bank. I gave you all those documents when I was last here.
Okay, Madam Senghore, thank you for clarifying. And we will see you on Monday, 12, to verify the documents so that we can admit them, because the only one we have admitted as an exhibit is the award and the receipts and the copies of checks and the statement, the relevant portion of your statement.
No, it wasn't the relevant portion. It was the statement for Ajib Bank for the period from 2019 when I opened that account up to 2023.
And thank you for the correction.
Yeah, it wasn't
So
just relevant.
we will check with the registry and confirm so that we can have those documents, if they are with us, for us to admit them.
And these are the tender documents that were issued by KMC. What I submitted, I don't have.
You said?
The tender documents I provided are the tender documents for the advert for the job.
Okay.
But our own tender that we submitted, I don't have a copy of that.
That the company used?
That Bajam submitted
Yes.
when they were bidding for the job,
Yes.
I don't have a copy of that.
You don't have, as a company, you didn't keep a copy for yourself?
I said it
For you.
before, I don't keep a copy for myself.
All right, we will check with what you have submitted, and then we will see you at...
Yeah, the documents are at KMC, like the one for the Bakote. The last time I came, he produced it and showed it to me.
Madam
So
Senghore,
maybe-
you have just told us that you have submitted documents. We will check the registry and check the records and confirm the documents you have submitted to us.
No problem.
Yes. So, and we will see you at 12 on Monday in order to...
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just to bring to your attention, did you give the witness on the 21st?
Yes, on to produce the documents. That is her statement.
21st.
Yes.
Okay,
But
maybe-
the Monday issue is for the documents that she has submitted for us to verify at the registry and get those documents admitted.
As the commission places.
Yes.
When can I get the order to?
Tomorrow. You can get the order tomorrow.
Will I be contacted or I have to come?
Yes, the registrar will... you please check with the registrar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Senghore. Council, is that all for today?
Yes, Madam Chairperson, that's all for today.